The United States military has about 750 bases overseas, across 80 countries and colonies. That means that about 4 out of every 10 countries have US bases on them, across every continent except Antarctica. But having that many military bases abroad is normal, right?
This is more foreign military bases than any country or people or empire in world history.
In fact, only about a dozen other countries even have foreign military bases, with just 70 combined between them. That means the US has the other 90%. So why is that? And what would the world look like if the US shut its overseas military bases down? Meet David Vine. He's a professor of anthropology at American University. He literally wrote the book about military bases abroad. Over the years, he's been researching and compiling a detailed database of all the US bases around the world. His database is so extensive that a few years ago, one of the Pentagon's research groups used his list for reference for their research instead of their own.
The fact that researchers working for the Army needed to rely on my list of foreign bases that I've been putting together since 2015 is a really bad sign. It's a bad sign about transparency, but many researchers believe the Pentagon itself, the military itself, they don't know how many bases they have around the world because there's so many damn bases.
That brings us to the question at the heart of all this.
So what's the purpose of this military presence around the globe? It's a great question. In short, I think empire is part of the answer.
And that's why you can't talk about how many bases the United States has without talking about what those bases actually represent. US imperialism. After World War II, the American government both expanded military bases and established itself as a dominant power with the self-proclaimed right to militarily intervene across the globe. It sent troops to occupy Southern Korea in 1945, with the Vietnam War kicking off in 1955. The US kept deploying its military anywhere it felt threatened, often by left-leaning governments. Latin America is an example of this. The region experienced American interventionism and involvement in regime change multiple times. By the end of the Cold War, there were 1,600 US military bases in 40 countries and colonies. Today, the number of military bases is half that, but the number of countries and colonies that host these bases have doubled. Japan and Germany still have 119 US bases. South Korea has 76. Professor Vine argues US foreign bases are simply launch pads for war, like this drone site in Niger, this airstrip in the Galapagos Islands, and this base in Djibouti, which is used to launch airstrikes in Somalia. This strategy of exerting power comes at a cost. Since 2001, the US has spent close to $6 trillion on wars. To put this spending in perspective, it could have housed the entire homeless population in the US and ended world hunger. And it's not just financially costly. Over 800,000 people have died due to post-9/11 wars in the Middle East.
It needs to be dismantled. We need to dismantle the system of war, and we need to dismantle the power of the military-industrial complex. And unless we do, we are in deep, deep trouble, because I most of all fear the United States will end up in even more catastrophic wars than the catastrophic wars that we have been waging since 2001.
US foreign bases have displaced millions of people. For example, Diego Garcia. Diego Garcia is a US base in the middle of the Indian Ocean. The US government conspired with the UK to illegally remove the entire local population in order to build the base. On top of that, many people in other host countries have consistently protested the presence of the US military.